Okay, let's talk with my mind. Stay on Jesus.
Julius Jones murdered Paul Howell in cold blood in front of his sister and daughters. No celebrity imploration or profusion of misinformation will change that. The information that we're releasing today is from the trial transcript, and it disproves every claim that he is innocent. I strongly encourage those calling for his commutation to read the compelling evidence in this document. Julius Jones had his day in court numerous times. I'll begin with reminding everyone the story around the infamous red bandana. His attorneys complained was never tested. It was tested in 2018. The conclusive results of the DNA profile show the probability of the DNA belonging to someone other than Jones is 1 in 110 million. Moreover, this bandana was tested for his accomplice, Chris Jordan's DNA. Chris Jordan's DNA was not found on that bandana. During the investigation, officers found the murder weapon wrapped in that red bandana and hidden in the attic space above the ceiling of the closet of Jones' room. And hidden behind the cover of the doorbell chime in his parents' home, officers discovered a loaded .25 caliber magazine belonging to the gun that they found. Both the bullet that killed Mr. Howell and a bullet recovered from Mr. Howell's Suburban were fired by the gun found in the attic.
We are here today because Julius Jones has faced the worst injustices of our criminal legal system over and over again. Today, AG Hunter asked advocates for justice, to be responsible to the public. I'm here today because we're not going to be just as responsible, we are going to be more responsible, because our asks are grounded in the injustices that Julius has faced and the fight for justice we're asking for from the commutation board. Julius's opponents have used their bully pulpits to try and smear his name for decades. They're suggesting, because of past run-ins with the law, that his cries for justice should be ignored and that the state should advance their plans to kill him. But we know the harms of the system. We know and refuse to let Oklahoma go forward with killing an innocent man.
Hello, my name is Madeline Davis Jones, and I am Julius Jones' mother. I am here today to deliver a message to the people of Oklahoma. Attorney General Mike Hunter, the Oklahoma Board of Pardon and Parole, and Governor Kevin Stitt. First, I would like to say that nothing I am about to say is it intended to travail lies or dismiss the terrible tragedy that Mr. Paul Howell's murder and the pain for his family is experiencing. My heart aches for them, and I pray, as I have prayed over the 2 decades, that God helps them to heal. At the same time, I want to be absolutely clear. My son Julius is not guilty of Mr. Howell's murder, and his conviction and death sentence are a terrible miscarriage of justice. I know Julius is innocent because my husband and I were with him that night Mr. Howell was murdered. Mr. Howell was shot Absolutely. Approximately 9 p.m. on the day of the shooting, Julius arrived home to our house around 4 p.m. and stayed there until he went to bed, hours after the murder was committed. It was an ordinary afternoon and an evening our family, Julius and his sister and brother, played Monopoly. They argued a little bit. His sister helped him get Boardwalk and Park Place, giving him an unfair edge in the game. His brother then ate his cookies. We ate spaghetti and cornbread. Julius and his father watched Dragon Ball Z. When the evening news asked, "It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?" We remembered silently congratulating ourselves because we did. Every day since then has been like watching a nightmare unfold. When Julius was accused of murdering Mr. Howell, it was terrible, but we believed the truth would prevail. We believed we would get an opportunity to talk about where Julius was with us when this murder occurred. We believed he would be sent home eventually. Our lives would be normal again. Instead, we never was given an opportunity to tell our story. The other evidence exonerating Julius was never heard by the jury. His defense team barely lifted a finger, and we watched Julius's entire future disappear in an Oklahoma courtroom when the verdict of guilty was read.
We are assembled here today because we have a young man who has received unjust treatment.
Many people can't believe that a wrongful conviction actually can happen in this country. But we've seen this before. We've seen countless stories, too many stories. One story is too many. Just in Oklahoma alone, 10 people have had to be exonerated off of death row. We today are fighting for Julius Jones. At the same time, we recognize there's another family in this city who has been devastated and broken by a crime that happened 20 years ago. And so while we fight for his life, we remember that there's also another grieving family in this city. His family has been on death row with him, because that's what happens when a person goes on death row. Their family goes with them. We want them all.
I thank God for each of you continuing to have this fire and this fight for my brother Julius Jones.
And I've been writing him ever since June of 2020. And just to see that he's human and he's real. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. And that he's going through all this alone. And I just wanted to be someone there for him to remind him that he's not alone and that Jesus is with him every step of the way, and that if I could just be a light for him, I was going to do that.
We are asking that all of you who have the power to dispense justice to move Julius Jones' case to phase 2 hearing. We're also standing boldly to raise this cause that after hearing all the facts, that you will make an unbiased decision to recommend him to be released from prison immediately.
Brother is surely coming home.
No matter what you think about the death penalty, no matter what you think about some of these broader issues of justice, the bottom line is the Julius Jones case in particular is a case of injustice. This is somebody who should not have been already on death row for 20 years.
213, Julius Jones. Kelly Doyle?
Yes.
Larry Morris?
Yes.
Adam Luck?
Yes.
Alan McCall?
No, ma'am.
Pass to stage 2.
At phase 2, the Pardon and Parole Board will hold a hearing where we get to present our case and our evidence. The state, through the district attorney and attorney general, will present their cases. The victim's family will have an opportunity to speak to the board, and then the board will vote on whether to make a recommendation for a commutation.
First, I want to thank Pastor Scobie for letting us use his church. Thank you, Dale, for explaining everything. And thank you for being such a champion for our family. Over 20 years ago, while I was getting my hair done at the house, and knowing that my brother was at home, knowing that late afternoon and that evening we were playing board games and my parents were making spaghetti and cornbread, knowing that later Julius and Dad and I were watching Dragon Ball Z, those are things that I won't forget about that day. While Mr. Paul Scott Howell was murdered at home, we were at home. Julius was at home with us. He was not in Edmond. He was nowhere near the scene of the crime. When the police raided our home, it began a long, hellish nightmare for our family. And we're still living in that nightmare right now. And after 20 years, all we are still asking is for a chance to let the truth come out. And I'm grateful for the Pardon and Parole Board for taking the action that they did today and giving Julius the opportunity to tell his story.
Free Julius. We ask a group of people who have the power to see the humanity in who Julius is, to understand the story that maybe this young man is innocent. Maybe he was caused to be in this predicament because of some trumped up charges, and that we have an opportunity on this side of antiquity, on this side of history, to right some wrongs.
What do we want? Justice for Julius!
This is not just a fight for Julius, this is a fight for all who are incarcerated wrongly, who are on death row wrongly, and for those who are on death row rightly. We shouldn't be killing anybody.
Julius Jones! Julius Jones!
And it's left up to us, all of us, and those that we come in contact with, and those that we're associated with, and those that we see and live with every day, to challenge an unjust, unfair, and unequal system. And you here today is on the right side of right, you're on God's side.
You all know we've spent weeks in most of this year considering the information presented here today. We've acknowledged before, and we want to acknowledge again, at least I do, that we are not a court, we're not a jury. There's no way that we will capture and understand all the information that's been presented in this case over the course of the years. Despite reviewing what's been presented, I just want to acknowledge that that is not our role. However, we do have constitutional duties as the Pardon and Parole Board. And I do believe that one of the reasons the Pardon and Parole Board exists is to ensure that the state has options all the way through the end of the process. Again, personally, I believe that the death penalty and death penalty cases, there should be no doubt. And put simply, I have doubts about this case. I cannot ignore those doubts, especially when the stakes are life and death. For this reason, my vote is yes, and I recommend commuting the sentence to life with the possibility of parole.
For the reasons stated by Chairman Luck, I also vote to commute to life.
I too believe that there is doubt and information that has been brought in this case in the last 20 years that would not in the best interest of the state to utilize the ultimate punishment in this case. And for those reasons, I recommend commuting to life.
It's probably going to be no, because they have a misconduct within the past year. And so I want to be careful about precedent on any case. For the first time, I heard something about Mr. Jones, other than just the facts of the case. And that would be important to me. I would have much preferred to have had this in a clemency hearing, where all of those things could be meted out, and where I could look in the eyes and get a palpable feel of myself. So for that reason, my vote is no.
Commutation is recommended.
This concludes the September
I'm grateful to the Pardon and Parole Board for seeing the human in my brother Julius Jones.
Today, I felt like I was in a courtroom again. It got it right.
Thank you, God, for doing the work. I've thought about this day for a really long time, and I've always known that my good day would be somebody else's bad day. It's really my sincere heart that this campaign has never intended to wound anyone. It has never intended to perpetuate more trauma on the victim's family.
As the family of Paul Howell, we are devastated by the decision reached today by the Pardon and Parole Board. Our family continues to be victimized by Julius Jones and his lies. We don't have a Represent Justice, which is a California 501c3 on our side, but we do have the truth.
There is a rule of law, and the rule of law was completely ignored today. The facts were ignored today, and those Pardon and Parole Board members completely ignored their duty. I'm ashamed of this state and the situation we are in right now.
We sincerely hope that Governor Stitt will review this case and treat us more fairly than the criminal justice reformers on this board.
This is a fight for a man's life, and he's not some name on a piece of paper. He's not a DOC number.
Right now! Last night was disappointing for us to learn that there's another delay, and it feels like Julius's life has gotten caught up in some paperwork somewhere. We want to stretch our hands in faith towards that building, because that meeting is not happening today, but it will happen. But despite all that, we believe in a God who sits high and looks low, and who we believe is in full control. Give him back. And so today we have cautious optimism, but more than that, we have faith that the right thing is going to be done for Julius Jones.
I know my brother is innocent because he was at home with me the night Mr. Paul Howell was killed. We were celebrating his birthday that had just passed 2 days ago. A few days ago. That's something I won't forget.
We really want to encourage everyone to continue to reach out to the Pardon and Parole Board, reach out to the governor, and let them know how you feel about this. You know, time is of the essence, and Julius's life matters.
None of us can comprehend the strength it must have taken for Julius and his family to get this far.
Lord, we thank you so much for Julius and his strength in you, God. We thank you, God, because we know that you will strengthen him. We know that you will sustain him. We know that you will supply all of his needs.
I don't need to know the facts of the case to know in the righteousness of the cause for Julius Jones. I need not look further than the love of his mother and his sister to know that his liberation is righteous and good. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll continue to be here every single day at 6.
What do we do? Stand up, fight back! When our lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back!
Back then, 22 years ago, Julius did not get a fair trial. He did not get a chance to speak. And as a believer, I'm here to stand up for him so that he does have his truth told to the world. I think that that's what Jesus would call me to do as a believer, so I'm here to stand with Julius and his family.
Power, everybody say power. And more than anything, we claim freedom for Julius Jones. Somebody say freedom. For Julius Jones, in Jesus'
Talking to
name
Julius
we
and
pray.
knowing his faith in God and his hope in the Lord, and it's given me that faith and that same hope, and he has really brought me back to God. With him being in jail for 22 years and having that kind of faith, I had no choice but to have faith. And so yeah, it was hard, but we're here, we're hopeful, and we believe that the Pardon and Parole Board will do the right thing, and also that the governor will put aside his politics and see that this is a real human being.
I know I have broken the laws, but I've never been a violent man. And I hope this board gets a chance to really, examine who I am and not the fear that's been talked about me and the hate, because this is not about hate, it's just about the truth. And the truth is, I didn't shoot that man. I didn't kill Mr. Paul Howell.
Please call the vote.
Kelly Doyle.
Yes, for clemency.
Richard Smotherman.
No.
Larry Morris.
Yes, for clemency.
Adam Luck.
For the reasons previously stated at the commutation hearing, my vote is yes to recommend clemency.
Clemency is recommended.
Please explain the board.
I'm glad that the world today got to see Julius Jones tell his truth, his testimony. I thank God for letting this moment happen. And I empathize with the Howell family because they were told the truth again today. And it's not easy when you've been told half-truths for over 22 years. Amen.
Julius Jones has taken full advantage of everyone in his life and in this situation, including you, the board members here today. And I am here to warn you, he is not innocent, he is not a mentor, and will never be a mentor to this community. What if this was your family member that was murdered, all for a car, remind you?
Julius's life is in the hands of Governor Stitt now, and we're just asking Governor Stitt to take the recommendation of his board. They put the same recommendation before him twice now, and for good reason.
Praying today that our governor will be divinely led. We're not here for anything else.
Governor Kevin Stitt, we know, O God, that he too is a man of faith. So it is our prayer today, O God, that you would incline his heart to follow the leading of your spirit, and that your spirit would lead him to make a decision that is consistent with the Pardon and Parole Board. That Julius Jones may be granted clemency in this process.
We have not come with an attitude of antagonism. Mr. Governor, as the elected leader of our great state, our prayers are constantly with you, as well as with all of the leaders and citizens of this great state of Oklahoma. Within your grasp today, Mr. Governor, is a matter of life and death.